about 2 o'clock, and I'm just going to wait a couple minutes just to see if we have a few more people sign on just before we begin our chat. My guess is we're going to be probably about half an hour or so. There's probably a lot to cover. I do talk fast, pros and cons to that. So if you have any questions throughout, I believe the chat is open. So if you actually have any questions for me during our chat today, I think just make a note in the chat, and then when I'm wrapped up, we'll go through and we'll answer some questions if you still have some at the end. So there's a little bit of information that we're going to cover off today. So I thank you for joining me on a Wednesday afternoon. It's either lunch hour, you're working at home, I'm in the background as you're working. Either which way, that's the beauty of Zoom. We get to do all these fun things these days. So we're doing pretty good. We've actually got a nice turnout this afternoon. So thank you all for joining me. Okay, so I'm going to kind of dive in because we've waited a couple minutes here. We're going to talk about the variable rate mortgage and what is happening. So I'm getting a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails. So I figured this is probably the best platform in which we can all chat. And then that way I can help get the information out. If you want to be a little bit more specific you can always book a time through my calendar app, and we can always do a chat about what makes the most amount of sense for you personally. But hopefully this, in terms of what we talk about, is going to actually help. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen. So then that way I've got a few, I'll call them PowerPoints for lack of a better word. And then that way it's just a guide as to what we're going to be chatting about. So bear with me 2 seconds here as I do that. Okay. If somebody could let me know if that you can see that. Okay, I just want to make sure that you can see the PowerPoint. Perfect, thank you. Alrighty, so we can see how we're going to maximize your cash flow for the average family. And that literally is what we're looking at right now, right? So we're at a time where everything is increasing. It's inflation. So gas, never ever in our lifetime have we seen at this price. Grocery store, I know we're getting the impact. And now we've got the prime lending rate increasing. It has been at an all-time low. We've just come out of 2 years of like record-setting, history-making interest rates, where we knew it would come back up. That was always a conversation that we would have had in terms of your mortgage. And just in general, we knew that interest rates were way too low and that they would be on the rise. Did we think they were going to be as quick and as aggressive? Not a chance. Like, we've never been here before. History will show us that the prime lending rate has always done an increase or a decrease at 0.25% at a time. The only time we saw that change was at the beginning of the pandemic, so which was March of 2020, where we saw 3 interest rate decreases, and it was like 0.5%, and then 0.25%, all within 23 days. That was record making. So based on that, we knew it would come back up, and we just were kind of looking at the 0.25% at a time, not these 0.5% increases. And rumor has it there's going to be a 0.75% increase coming. The other stuff that we know, and I'll kind of dive into this a little bit now, is that where they project the variable rate is going to be is, I think they're heading back to 5.2, which is where we were back in 2008. That is speculation, but that is the information that is out there and that what we've read. So I want to kind of use that as a guide as to when we get there. I don't know how soon that's going to be. I don't know if it's by the end of this year. I don't know if it's by the end of next year, but there is speculation that the interest rates are on the rise. And it really comes down to what we're seeing as well is that they're trying to stop us spending money. So as much as we're talking about interest rates on the rise, payments are increasing, it's getting a little bit tighter. What they actually found is that based on this last 2 years, people's savings has dramatically increased at a faster rate than ever before because we couldn't go anywhere, right? Like, we weren't spending money. So people might have been doing online shopping, or you're doing skip the dishes and all that kind of fun stuff. But in essence, the Canadians in general, so that's a very broad scope. That's just not limited to us here today. But they actually were finding that people were actually saving more money. So it's as much as we talk about rising interest rates, some people have extra cash flow, not everybody. So that's what we're going to talk about is cash flow. And what are we going to do about your mortgage rate? So if you're on a variable rate mortgage, you're probably either panicked or you're curious or you're just like, what is happening? I think I know what's happening and how is this going to impact me? And because I'm in the variable rate mortgage, we always talk at the beginning of the contract that at any time throughout your contract, so which is that 5 years, you can convert to a fixed rate at any time without penalty, but you are converting to the fixed rates at the time. And so now we're at the point where we're actually having those conversations. So in the 5-year contract, what are your options? Well, let's go through them because you actually got 4. And based on what we're looking at today, it's not just a standard switch over, right? So if we look at option 1, well, we're going to talk about staying status quo. So that was a conversation I had with the client this morning, and they've already pre-budgeted based on, actually they had seen the interest rate of 5.2 as well. So their mortgage rate is prime -1. So everybody will have a different discount on their variable rate mortgage, depending on when you took the product out, because the discounts always vary. So for our conversation, I'm going to work on prime -1. So what we talked about today is if prime was looking at getting to 5.2, potentially, she would be looking at a 4.2 interest rate. She said, I've actually went onto a calculator and actually figured out what that payment would look like. So we're kind of budgeting based on that is coming. So that's her staying status quo. One of the options we talked about was every lender is different in terms of how you can make your payments, right? So you do have the option of doing weekly, biweekly, semi-monthly, and monthly. Some of our lenders only offer the option as accelerated weekly or accelerated biweekly. When you're in that type of payment, what happens is you're actually making like an extra $75 against principal every payment. And that's just the only option that they offer. So now, as we're on these interest rate increasing, that extra $75 per payment is still embedded into that weekly payment or biweekly payment. So what we're talking about is maybe staying status quo because we know what goes up must come down, and eventually, as prime does come back down, kind of you're still staying in the product, but in the interim, we're going to save you some money by switching your payment frequencies. So if you go from a biweekly or a weekly, now let's consider either doing a semi-monthly or a monthly payment, because when we do that, there's no acceleration. It's a non-accelerated payment. So it doesn't have that extra, say, $75 per payment built in. So what that's doing is it's giving you a bit of that cushion to accommodate some of the potential increases that are coming. So that's something to take into account. Like if you don't want to get out of the current contract that you're in because you like the product that you're in. I have some lenders that we had a small blip in late last year where they actually offered a discount of prime -1.3. That's a really good discount. There were certain criteria attached to it, but you might want to stick with that because that's actually one of the lower interest rates that we have. But maybe let's just offset payments and stretch it back to the original amortization period. So when I say that, so if we had you approved at a 30-year amortization, and now you're like 3 years into that contract, you still have 27 years remaining on the life of the mortgage, and you have 2 years remaining on the 5-year contract. So what you can do is that because you'll be making the accelerated payments, your amortization might be close to like 24 and a half years because of the acceleration, but you can actually decrease the payment back to that 27 years. So then that's the way that we're saving on cash flow. We've always been in a position where we borrow money, and that's what we do when we're taking out a mortgage, and we're trying to pay it down quicker. And a lot of people have taken advantage of that based on the lower interest rates. But now what we're saying is maybe in this next couple of years, as we go through this crazy transition period, let's borrow some time. And let's give ourselves a little bit of a break and go back to that original amortization. And let's see, it's all about cash flow. So you're not worrying about money. So that's one of the options that we have in terms of saying status quo. And that's available to you with all your lenders. It's just a matter of knowing what your options are and working with myself. We can talk to the lender. We can run those scenarios for you and see what's going to be the best option. Okay, so that's option 1. Now let's talk about option 2. You can convert to the fixed rates. Those interest rates are high. Not gonna lie, we get multiple emails daily from different lenders, and it is kind of crazy in terms of where interest rates are going today. When I say that is that currently we've got one lender on a 5-year fixed at 509, and we've got another one at 544. Highest rates I think I've seen since 2007, 2008. It is we're there. We're like back in time, back in like 15 years ago, and that's where interest rates are. So here's what I'm going to talk about. If you're like, you know what, I'm really worried. I think the prime is going to go to like 6.5%, and I really want to lock in. I don't know if prime will get that high. I don't know. I don't have my crystal ball. I wish I did. But what I do know is that if you lock into that interest rate at say 544, because you need peace of mind, let's say in 3 years, I keep using that average turnaround time there. But if we look at the 3-year marks, let's say the interest rates start decreasing again, and now we've got interest rates at 3 or 3.5%, and you're still paying 544 because you locked into that 5-year contract. The biggest thing you have to know is when you break a fixed rate contract, the penalties attached to that contract are large, and it depends on your lender. Because what happens is when you break a fixed rate mortgage contract, is you're now paying a penalty which is based on the spread of interest rate on the remainder of the balance on the remainder of the contract. And that varies. That varies based on lender. So if we talk about bank lending, so let's say you converted from the variable to the fixed rate, and let's say their rate today is 544. Well, they've got a posted rate. So their posted rate is generally about 2% above that. So let's say that's 7.44. So based on that posted contract of 744, they never offered you that rate, but that's their posted rate. They've discounted it down to 544. You, like 3 years down the road, want to break that because now interest rates are at 3%. They're going to use that 744 and then that 3%, and that spread of interest is the penalty that they're going to charge on breaking of your contract. What we do know is that is the biggest money-making product that a bank has, because they know that a client will potentially lock in out of fear, because that's what the media is doing. Media is causing the fear of these crazy times. And even if you log on to your online banking within your bank, the first thing you're seeing is interest rates are so high, lock in. Like it's everywhere that we go, from social media to talking to friends to your online banking. We're seeing the fear mongering that's happening. So, because if you convert to that fixed and you break that contract, they make a lot of money, because they're still charging you that penalty on that loss of interest for the contract, and then they're going to reinvest your money at a lower rate. Whereas if you're on a variable rate mortgage, it's only ever a 3-month interest penalty, no matter who your lender is. So that's bank rates. So let's say you're with one of the model line lenders. So you're with First National, you're with CMLS, you're with RMG, MCAP, any of those lenders. They don't have posted rates. The rate contracts that we get with them are the rates. So there's no increase in rate. So if you broke a contract on a fixed rate with one of those lenders, your penalty would be much smaller, but still greater than the 3-month interest penalty. So I can't stress enough that if you're going to convert to a fixed rate, please, please, please have that conversation with me, because I want to find out, what are your plans? It's not a matter of it just being a fear, but it's like anything could happen. The biggest thing we've seen in this last 2 years is a lot of change happened. There was like people started working from home. Now people might have to go back to work. Now people don't have to go back to work. So they've had to move to accommodate home offices. There's a lot of change. We're also coming at a time where there's some marital breakdowns. So we're seeing a few more separations. So there's a lot of things that can happen. And if you are on a fixed rate and something happens, say you have another child, say you get promoted, or you're going to work from home, if you're going to get relocated with work, if you go through a separation, or you've outgrown your house, or you don't like the area, or something happens, 5 years is a long time. So be careful about converting to a fixed rate, because historically as well, the variable rate is known to pay down your mortgage quicker over the span. I've got an attachment here as well that I'm going to show you in terms of the history of the prime rates and where we were with the fixed rates and where we average out with the variable rates as well over 25 years. So historically, the variable will pay it down quicker, and it offers you the flexibility. But if you're losing sleep at night, then we got to talk. So that's one of the options that you have. Not the best option, but it's an option. So let's go to option 3. Let's see if that one's going to be better for you. We're going to stay in the variable rate mortgage, but we're going to adjust your payment based on the fixed rates. So that way you're kind of building in the buffer. So that way you know that potentially rates are going to go up to 544. Let's just use that as a guide. So then don't convert your mortgage contract. Don't get out of the variable and go into the fixed. Set your payment based on the 544. And if you set that payment at the 544, but again, you're at prime -1, so you're at 2.7. So that, like, what's that? Almost 3% of interest is actually all going towards principal. So you're actually paying down that mortgage quicker in the interim because that additional money is going towards principal. Now, the thing with this is, as the interest rate increases, it will adjust your payment because it's going to think that that's part of the growth. That's where you contact the lender and you get the payment reset back. You can do that. And it's a matter of which lender, and we'll work with you on that to help guide you, because some of them have online portals that you can go in and do that yourself, or some it's a matter of making a phone call into servicing with the lender and they'll accommodate that as well. But this way, you know the interest rates are going to increase, so that way you're building in the buffer that you know this is where the payments are going to go, but you're actually still paying that super low interest rate on your variable. It will eventually increase. Like I'm not saying it's not going to, but what I'm saying is that you're building some time, and then kind of thing, as you're accelerating it, so your amortization period's coming down further, you can always take that off and just go back to the regular scheduled payment and stretch it back to, say, that 27-year amortization. There's different ways that you can work with your mortgage product. It's not about how you set it up now, is how it's going to be for the rest of the contract. You have to know that there's options. And this is the time, I would say in this last 2 years, is the time that we've actually really taken advantage of the different products, the prepayment options, increasing payments or decreasing payments and structuring it that way. It's case by case with lender, and it's case by case with client. So that's option 3. Now we're going to go into option 4. Now this is where we would convert to a static variable mortgage. So the majority of the mortgage products out there right now, when we call them a variable rate mortgage, they're actually an adjustable rate mortgage. So there's actually like 3 types of mortgages. We've got the fixed rates, we've got the adjustable rates. So the adjustable increases and decreases when prime changes. And then we've got the variable mortgage, which is a static payment. The payment is fixed. So no matter if interest rates increase or interest rates decrease, your payment is always the same. And so what's happening is inside is how much is going towards principal and how much is going towards interest. That's what's changing, which is then changing the amortization period. If we're in a position that interest rates are gradually going further, then we have a position that maybe it not being the 27-year amortization, maybe it now is at 28 years or 28 and a half or 29. And that's okay. That's again where we talk about borrowing time. So then as interest rates increase, we're there. And then as interest rates start coming back down, like in terms of the prime rates, then if you wanted to adjust your payment, you can. You can take advantage of the prepayments. You can increase those mortgage payments by 10% or 15%, depending on the lender. And some of them allow double up payments. And then we also have the option of lump sum payments, which is either 10% or 15% of the original mortgage amount every year. And that's what we can actually put towards your mortgage as well when we're in that position of making up for time. So that's a few of the options. This one is probably one of the more favorable right now. And how do we work with that one? So it's a different lender. So what we'd be doing is breaking your existing contract. Again, you're in a variable rate, so it's going to be a 3-month interest penalty. And then what we would do is, if you have any outside debt, because again, I'm all about cash flow and making sure you're okay, especially in the coming time, refinance, pay out the debts into the mortgage, set your payment, maybe even take an extra few dollars, put it in the bank account as a buffer. So then that way, as everything is on the rise, you know you've got a little, like a nest egg there, so you don't have to worry about cash either. And then as we kind of get back into like normal times, whatever that may be, then what we can do is, if you don't use it, you can put it as a lump sum and put it back against the mortgage, or you can increase that mortgage payment again. But in the interim, it's buying time and saving cash flow. So what we would do here is that we would do a new application. We would qualify, like get updated income documents, do an updated credit check and such, probably do an appraisal on the property. And then we're going to do new legal fees to redo a new mortgage. Completely optional. And it's one of those ones that I've had a few conversations with a few clients so far, and we are taking advantage of this. So we're actually doing the static variable mortgage to give that peace of mind. You can set that payment a little bit higher, again, based on that 544 if you wanted to, and the payment's not going to change. So all that additional is going to go towards principal, and you're going to pay it, and you're going to pay it down a little bit quicker as well. So that's one of the options. The other option I'm going to actually show is the history of the variable rate. So hopefully this shows up because it was on the screen. Can you guys see that where you see the variable rate? Somebody says that. Can you see, did you see that I switched things? Yep, thanks, hon. Okay, so when I look here, so this is CMLS actually. We talked about CMLS. Somebody else talked about that on the chat there, so we'll chat about that. This is the comparison of the fixed versus the variable rates over the last 25 years. So what we're showing here is on the gray line is the fixed rates. So these are the interest rates. So back in like 96, so where it's all gone up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's come back down. And then we're looking at the variable rate, which is in the blue, and which is much lower. So as you can see, all these peaks and valleys, where the variable rate was always showing to be less than the fixed rates. This was the 25-year average fixed rate, and this is the 25-year average variable rate, which is on the next slide. So when I show you that, here is a fixed rate of the past 25 years. So the average lending over the period of 25 years, we start at 96, go down to 2022. So, and then we go through the calendar months, and then this is the 25-year average. So when we actually look here, we're seeing that over the past 25 years, the 5-year fixed rate average is 5.3. And that's going through all the peaks and valleys, all the highs and lows of all the different interest rates that we've seen. And that's what we're seeing for fixed. If we go to the variable rate, we do the same thing. And again, a prime rate, like back in January of 96, it was 7.25. And then January of 2022, it was 2.45. This is the average rate here. And then we look down here and we're seeing that over the course of 25 years, the average prime rate was 4.14 compared to the 5.3. So this is where we actually see the variable rate is where it pays it. It pays it down quicker. And this is the posted rate. This isn't even the discounts that we actually offer below prime, because every lender offers something different depending on the product, and there's been a lot of changes. So this is where, so when we say that the prime rate is increasing and it's uncertain for some people, there's still certainty in the fact that it will always be less expensive than the fixed rates. And it's a way of working it so that it's affordable to you, it's comfortable for you, and it's just making sure that it's the right fit for you by using the different options, staying status quo and changing payment frequencies, setting the payment based on the fixed and staying that way, or redoing the mortgage and working with a static variable rate mortgage lender. And that's one of the options that we're leaning a little bit more towards right now, but just knowing that potentially the amortization will increase as we go. So that is the biggest things that we're looking at. The other things I can say is, well, thank you. Thank you for joining me. And if you want to talk about your specific mortgage, what we can do for you, is it a matter of, do you want to look at visiting the static variable? Do you want to, and redoing the application and then paying out some debts, getting some extra money in the account for some peace of mind? Absolutely an option. And we can definitely work together on that. The other option is just, do we want to change the payments or the payment frequencies? Or if you want to convert to a fixed, let's talk, because the interest rates are high and the variable rate will always be cheaper than where the fixed rates are. So that is something that you need to know as well. So that was me talking very fast for half an hour. So, and one of the messages that I did see was that the lender like CMLS, they can charge $25 each time that you adjust the payments. They do also have a client portal, which, so instead of actually calling servicing, you can actually log into the client portal and you can make some of the changes yourself, kind of thing. And I don't believe there's a charge on that, but I will confirm. But I know if you call into servicing, they will charge a fee, just like First National will. So it's a matter of getting access to the client portal. And if you don't have that, reach out to me. I'll send you the contact info so you can reach out to them so you can get that set up. And just, I'm a call away or an email. But the easiest time to get, oh, thanks, thank you. Unfortunately, you cannot make those changes on their portal. Okay, let me call my lender rep. I'll talk to him to find out how we get around the $25 fee as well. So bear with me on that. Easiest way to get a hold of me kind of thing today, because the schedule's a little bit busy, not gonna lie. Easiest is literally book into my calendar. You can book a Zoom call with me, you can book a phone call with me, or you can even just book like a 5-minute call to go through this, the variable rate mortgages for you. Always happy to help. We're here. We'll probably do this again because as we're going to go through another challenging time, I think in July, and then we got the summer off, and then let's see what the fall holds for us. But I'll always keep you in the loop in terms of what I have through my social media. We're changing stuff that we're going to start uploading now to keep everybody more informed of the changes, not just the good stuff kind of thing, like the fun stuff and the different stuff that we talk about, but also just keep you in the loop in terms of what's happening. Based on I've subscribed to different newsletters, so that way I'm really more in the loop, and I'm still attached to all my industry contacts as well and industry friends. So we do a lot of talking behind the scenes on this, so which is good. And I'm just going to leave one note is that as much as we've talked about the increase in payments, I have to let you know that when I do your mortgage application, I qualify you at that higher rate. Your application is already qualified at an interest rate of 5.25. So you can qualify for these rate increases because Canada is pretty conservative in terms of how we lend. So we've built all this in. It sucks about paying it. I'm not going to lie because I'm right there with you because I'm also in variable products, but we're built in there. So it's just a matter of budgeting. I've already built it in, but we're accustomed to paying the low payments. But just know we're not going to set you. We're not going to put you in. We're not going to put you in harm's way. And this is absolutely recorded. So this will actually get sent out to you, just like that newsletter that Tara sent out for us. We'll get this recorded. We're probably going to chop it up a little bit. Hopefully we can, because I talk fast. And then actually start keeping this out into social media platforms as well, just as little tidbits to keep everybody in the loop. And any questions, just reach out, just book an appointment with me. Love to talk to you. Thanks for joining me, guys. And I hope you have a great day. And unless anybody has any other questions, other than that, I think we're okay. Okay, enjoy your summer. Well, I'll totally talk to you, and then we'll talk to you soon.